Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. It has been so long. It has been so long since we have been on the channel here. And thank you for your patience and, your comments. I'm here today to address and sort of get a two-way interaction, especially with our viewers and the comments that you have recently added to the channel. So thank you for your patience. I know for an update, people are like, what is happening with Peace and Harmony? I have been extremely sick for the past year and 11 months, struggling with a lot of pain in my abdomen. And it turns out that I have some sort of nerve entrapment in my abdominal wall, which is, some people get like pinched nerves in their hips, their knee, their elbow, and they're stretching things. I happen to have a nerve, some sort of nerve that we're still figuring it out. It has taken so long to get this right. It's taken them, the medical community, about a year and 11 months to get the proper medication. So I am back on my feet. It has been a very, very difficult journey, a lot of pain, a lot of down and, I don't want to say depression, but pain can take a lot of energy to deal with. It takes a lot of your life chi, your sort of your happiness, your joy. There's a neurochemical balance that needs to be maintained in the body, especially for those people who have, not only do they have physical systems that are exasperating their emotional, but you must understand, that your body kinesthetically affects your emotions, and emotions are your energy in motion. So we're talking a little bit about today on some specific questions about people who have had very damaging family systems, spousal relationships, those people who might have discovered through maybe many years or decades of feeling bad, feeling insecure, feeling like you're not good enough, and you're sort of on a treadmill and going nowhere. This can make people very grumpy, and it can make people very agitated and upset when your emotions are not sort of balanced out, and you're suffering, especially what can be kind of as a scar if you've had a injury from this system. So it might be a work partner for you, it might be a love relationship, it might be a boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, or it might just be family system, it might be multi-generational. One thing when we talk about healing is you are a culmination of so many events, experiences, and namely sentiment. Sentiment, feeling, meaning what is meaning and fulfilling for your life. So emotional abuse will separate you from that component. Sort of, if you look at like your reticular activating system, which is an automatic system which really drives your focus. And if you are constantly, perpetually in a state of emotional abuse. So we haven't really talked too much about this very interesting topic, but I think it's very relevant. So you can kind of see the connection between your emotions, energy and motion, and being stuck. Have you ever felt stuck? I'm unhappy, I'm grumpy, I don't know what it is. Is there a silver bullet? And then people sort of, end up like looking outside of themselves, or their relationships keep them disconnected, like a computer that is not online. It's like people's emotions get so deflated, especially around times like the holidays right now, when you're expected to be maybe joyful or trying to deal with this pandemic and it's not going so great for you. Maybe, people are getting too intense, things are getting too much, overwhelm. I mean, right now, if you look at even like the state of advertisements, things that are clawing for your attention. Oftentimes we don't realize, what that is. And it will sort of, your reticular activating system means like, if you are, let's just say there's the classic example. If you think of a yellow Jeep, and then a yellow Jeep, just like, wow, that's a unique car or a unique color. I've never really seen that before. Why are you telling me this, peace and harmony? Your reticular activating system is like an automatic focus. It's a neurological structure. And you can, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, has talked a lot about this, especially when it talks to like fulfillment of meaning and sort of your inner circle, if you will. That like airtight, watertight strength of security that never abandons you. So people who have suffered emotional abuse at the hands of a narcissist, a covert narcissist, or psychopath, they very much count on your reticular activating system to focus on them and solely them. And even if it's destructive to your flow, your happiness, what you're about, and people will suffer a lack of motivation, and they don't realize that the relationship in the way that you're physiologically, kinesthetically relating to the world, will be defined by hurt, and it will be defined by a feeling of being critical, not being good enough. There's just this insatiable element when people are suffering at the hands of emotional abuse. So what is emotional abuse, and what is the reticular activating system that causes you to sort of abandon your cohesiveness and sort of be separated or ripped from it, almost like a teared tendon? So your tendons, I want to give you kind of like a physical structure. Your tendons, have flexibility and, connecting your bones and ligaments and things. So if you think of your emotions kind of having a fluidity, that can be stuck, hampered like a nerve, has anyone had, nerve pain, a burning pain that it's chronic? Your reticular activating system is like always focusing on it. So getting back to the example of the yellow Jeep, if you go out today, this week, you will automatically, you don't even have to command yourself, you will automatically begin drawn to this element of focus. So if you're focusing on something like a relationship that's hurtful or causing sort of this tearing, if you will, like it can be almost like an emotional stiffness, and like you're not going anywhere, you don't feel motivated. And so when you're in a relationship with someone who is narcissistic or psychopathic, they count on you always sort of focusing on them and thirsting for that manipulation, because the emotional abuse sets you up for a two-way trauma bond. So it is not a relationship. The problem is, that people are trying to have these relationships in the guise of love, meaning does this person love me? A lot of people, they start asking a million questions. What am I feeling? They can't identify it because of the experience of emotional abuse. Emotional abuse is when someone sort of takes a domineering, better than you, you can't come at me, it's a one-way street attitude, perspective, personality trait, way of being, set of values within that person that drives, someone to abuse others. The problem is we can't see it. Like if you suffered physical abuse, you got slapped on the face, punched, tripped, whatever, that's a physical pain. Emotional pain is more profound and deeper. It's like water under rock. Like it's like water under a rock, David Byrne, Talking Heads. You have an undergirding sort of fluidity about you when you're in sort of your groove, you're not in the funk, and you're not in that sort of reticular activating system of the harm or damage that is instilled, and then you embody it. So the problem with emotional abuse, where someone is hypercritical or judgmental, meaning they're assigning something to you which is good or bad. And then the judgment is their perspective, which has nothing to do with reality. It has nothing to do with who you are or what you need. And the problem is that they sort of take over that reticular activating system and count on your sort of your lowliness, and then people mistake it as, well, maybe I'm being loving if I allow this, if I listen to them. They're so angry, they're so aggressive. These are the telltale signs, the red flags of a narcissist, where you just don't feel listened to. You do not feel heard. You feel like there's this judgment or dark cloud looming through, things. And some people can then regress, meaning they're always sort of going back to these sort of self-soothing behaviors, oftentimes which are not becoming, and they become frustrated with themselves. Things aren't working. You have a kink. You are literally stuck. So emotions can literally get stuck. Your happiness, you can literally get stuck, meaning there is a emotional block. It is a block, meaning I can't get through it. I feel like I can't get over it. I feel limited. One of the things about being a human is you do have to accept and take comfort in certain limitations. And limiting emotional abuse is one boundary that you really, really, really need to master. Excuse me. You need to master boundary creation, maintenance, enforcement, and embracing what is your boundary. The boundary is your sense of self as a wholeness. So, in other words, look at that perfect flower. It's not missing anything. It's just perfect the way it is. Or look at that tree growing mighty and strong over hundreds or 200 or 400 of years. Have you ever hugged a mammoth tree? Have you ever felt how strong it is? That is connection. So that is what's missing when you get this block, which is literally instilled. So you must understand that the block has been instilled to you at the abuse of another. So, and oftentimes it can be, nerve pain. It can be stomach pain. It can be shoulder pain. You can clench and armor up because you don't know how to protect yourself. And then it becomes this isolationary sort of mechanism, which people don't realize is happening. Meaning they don't realize that they are being taken advantage of, that they are being used, that they are being manipulated, that they are being, misled, or, into a relationship that is not of a non-fear. So there's a fear base oftentimes in the reticular activating system will say, I need to focus on you. I need to please you because my reticular activating system is driving me to this. And the miraculous thing, I hope you learn about a lot of miracles here on the Peace and Harmony channel. But the very important thing that you must understand is that the mind grabs onto images. So it's more and body language, which is so difficult now in the pandemic, where people are being stay social distance. You can't touch anybody. You can't hug anybody. People are getting deprived and they're getting irritated, aggression. This is all the by factor the byproduct oftentimes of someone who has sort of an insatiable need for power and control, which is greed. Greed meaning they want to be the authority. They want to be the one in charge. They want to control everything in their environment, but you can't control people, and realize that people are different, and that, that is not your responsibility. As a parent, you're going to protect your children, you're going to guide them. I mean, that's a whole other topic. But when people have suffered, generally maybe in their family of origin, oftentimes if this is instilled, like literally deep down in the roots, your reticular activating system is going to be very groomed to a sort of people pleasing, and then it can cause sort of a feeling of like, I'm a shell, and then there's a personal me, and there isn't oftentimes a balance. And a scar can be created. So you have to realize that the scar can be a numbing out. You don't feel flexible. You feel maybe that the scar defines you, and maybe you get a payoff from this scar. It's a warrior. I'm always gonna feel it, and people try to get empowered, from their scars, and you don't get empowered by being in an emotionally abusive relationship. Period. End of story. I don't care if you've invested $1 million in this person. I don't care if you've spent 5 decades. It is time to learn about really the joy, really that it escapes human understanding. Once you let go, once you identify, what is this emotional abuse? What has truly happened? Once you get real, with the narcissist or the psychopath, there's a tendency to people please, to please them, a one-way street. And then meanwhile, you're getting dismissed, not attended to, namely not listened to, especially your emotions. Narcissists, psychopaths, when we talk about this, psychopaths do not have a conscience. So they can emotionally abuse and get control over others and sort of make it appear as if they are the gatekeeper, as if they are the one to open the door for you and get you into wherever you need in your life, which is not the case. Yeah, there's interpersonal relationship where you need to count and rely on people. But when you have suffered, experience emotional abuse, that means it's an injury. It is an injury, a wound. Just like if you got hit with a baseball bat, to the back, you'd be like, oh my God, that really hurts. And what do I need to do? By the way, Lyrica is the medication that I have been taking, and this is not to I don't know why I'm putting this in, but it's a very effective medication, and I'm just giving a shout out because I'm able to be on my feet just because of this medication. It's gotten me through a lot of pain. So anyway, but emotional abuse, meaning that it hampers you, it hinders you, it kinks you up, it causes you to feel like a ball and chain, maybe heaviness, maybe tension held in the body. It is in the body, especially when it's someone else's anger, aggression, insecurity that they have then defaulted on. In other words, they're not responsible themselves. They project this demeaning sense onto others, which has nothing to do with reality, meaning the cut downs, ignoring your boundaries and privacy, just sort of, helping themselves to whatever it is in your life, to the point where it can get to the point where you feel that you don't have any structure, that you don't have anything of your own, like the who am I, that you can draw resource from, that is your emotional reservoir. It's like a big, ocean, or, it's like, and look at this cool shell that I found in the woods by me. And I just thought it's so beautiful. And these are like endangered. So you got to be very careful and protect, you are, what I'm saying is inside this little guy is a mollusk, okay? That is his life. And he created this wonderful, shell. And maybe, it's like the rings of a tree. How many, years did it take? So you have to realize that there's a compounding effect, which can kind of keep you separated from sort of that effervescence, that joy, the feeling that things are working. I don't have to question everything, and I don't have to walk around with my dukes up all the time to defend myself and sort of hit off, verbal comments, especially around the holidays. We've had our viewers here who are peace and harmony. Can you please address, that isolation where you feel sort of disconnected, which is very painful? And the answer is yes. If you understand why the isolation, it's a perspective. It's like we're talking about perspectives once again. If you were to go to a football game, either you can be in like right up front and have these awesome seats and it's like see the players and like see the sweat off their face or whatever, or you can be so far away that you can't really see anything. You feel disconnected. You feel that you got kind of put back where, you belong. It's like it's this whole undergirding of deserve issues. So if you have suffered at the hands of emotional abuse, particularly that of a parent or a spouse. A parent, their job is to instill empowerment, to instill security, that they can be their own person, that they can have friends, and that they do things that are not like socially unacceptable. They're there to teach, guide, and be gentle. Not all parents, believe it or not, are great at that. And the problem with emotional abuse, particularly around family settings, is they count on you not speaking up, you sort of not opening up the can of worms. They can be so controlling that, they will sort of take charge of the conversation, and you don't realize sort of that you're people pleasing or that you're overriding your own boundaries because you don't know, you have not been able to establish these because because the boundaries are so up for being shredded, being annihilated, being ignored, as if they don't exist. So a narcissist or a psychopath will act as if your needs really aren't important, or they don't really exist. They will minimize or pervert sort of, well, you're too weak, you're too meek, you're too this, you're too that, when it has nothing to do with the truth. It is their perspective. Just like someone who thinks that they are better than, they are very prone to judgment. So that judgment can be the isolating factor, meaning you are under the hands of some sort of judge, which is a lot of pressure. There is not a pressure over, written on the ceiling. There is not like a big, anvil or whatever at your dinner table. You are not, this is your life. This is your world. This is you. Your time is your greatest commodity. And especially around the holidays, people's time get distracted into especially a lot of materialism or greed, and they feel that they can't get the right present or can't get enough, or they're just always on this addictive track of being controlling, of being the one who's the best. Of course, we all want to improve and be our best, but it is very, very destructive. Destructive meaning of your boundaries, like meaning they are taken down. They are, they are not able to be instilled. Because the narcissist or the psychopath, the emotional abuser, it's so easy for them to just go help themselves to you and whatever it is that you're giving. We call this supply. It's narcissistic or psychopathic supply. They literally run off of it like a fuel. It's an energy within you, which is very esoteric. But when we talk about psychology and healing, we need to really get to know a little bit more and be open-minded, especially where the scars are, because the scars are like where people are always sort of holding their pain. And like for myself, I've had an extraordinary amount of pain. So it's like this guarding, and it's still getting better, and I will keep you posted. But for you people who are suffering sort of that feeling of grumpiness, isolation, sort of like you're not happy, you're not tap dancing. Well, you know what? You might need to get some tap dancing shoes. You might need to get a feather boa. You might need to put on some music and see that you haven't listened to in some time. And now that you're maturing and growing up and saying, you know what, I need to be able to perk up, within, and I need to be able to find that reticular activating system within, that instead of focusing on, I'm being judged, my emotions are being dismissed, I'm a terrible person. That's really what boils down. And it's going to come out in the body. It's going to come out at some time. What I'm talking about when you're suffering at the hands of emotional abuse, it's literally the aggression that is within that person that they are placing on you, projecting, and people then absorbing their negative energy. When people are so upset, it makes them uncomfortable. When people are struggling, they feel their struggle. This is empathy. This is your empathy at work, at play, and you have these mirror neurons, which are to help you sort of, you feel this way, I feel that, oh my God, did you see that? And that's you're joyful, you're connecting, and you don't feel isolated. See, but you're reaching out, you're being outgoing. From the state of innocence, purity, it's a very childlike, playful thing. Even if you're an adult, you have a healthy, playful side that oftentimes need to be opened up, released, and experimented with in, a structured manner. Not like I'm going to go play and lose my job or whatever, live in a van by the river. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that you need to recognize what especially emotional abuse is and what it looks like and what it does to you. It's an invisible thing. So here at the Peace and Harmony channel, we talk about a lot of intangible stuff. So especially right now in the holidays, it's oftentimes perverted to be a very materialistic situation or celebration when it couldn't be further from the truth. It is immaterial. It is non-material. The joy, sort of being uplifted, saved, within sort of the, a happy tingling inside. But that experience, you become deprived of that physical, like a muscle memory. So if you're not able to have a muscle memory of being secure, strong, confident, and boundaries up, then oftentimes people don't know what boundaries are. You might feel like you're living in a third world country where you just don't know what's going to happen. You just don't know one day to the next, and you feel very uncomfortable, or you're not connecting with people. You don't feel you're at your best self. So, when we talk about that, especially in the holidays, and you're around, or maybe emotional abuse, this can hurt deeply, and people will nonchalantly fling emotional abuse. So, for example, if you take a child who's in their room and you yell at them angry and you're this, you're that, and slam the door, you're solidifying sort of this insecurity. So narcissists are the same kind of thing. You want to have this love, but they keep shutting you out. A psychopath, you want to have a relationship, but they're not able. They appear, oh my God, to be very charming, very wealthy, very prolific in business. But when it comes to, they ain't got it going on. They are empty inside, but they will play, they know, that they're sort of depleted like this. So they put on all these airs to be as if, but it is not genuine. So people who need genuineness, and if they do not, you need that sort of authenticity. Like, what is me? Like, what is the fabric, the fiber of me? Like, can I embrace that? And like, what does that mean? And to have a boundary around that was not acknowledged, validated, and lived in. So if you are at the hands of emotional abuse, your feelings are and were totally dismissed. Like, oh, no, that's not happening. That's not real. You don't feel this way. No, you don't feel worried, this relationship isn't going to happen, or I'm not getting the support that I need. I'm not getting the guidance. Something, they're out of touch. Maybe they're on substance abuse. But the problem with emotional abuse, and I know I don't want to go too long. I mean, I know my viewers have been saying we want shorter stuff. I don't know if you like shorter or longer, but the problem is that they destroy and erase and eliminate sort of your own little cocoon, if you will. You need to cocoon yourself and get out of the cocoon. So, but a healthy cocoon, meaning that you're just reaching out and that you are good enough. So, in other words, just because this person who might have been very influential, you need to take stock of the importance that you have given this person, where it's then removed sort of your inner, because this person has instilled a lot of maybe negative interplay, which is a kinesthetic feeling in the body. So you live by this, that you need to recognize and like embrace and honor that actually that is going to be a saving grace, to realize that maybe there is a certain disgrace that has perpetuated a real negative pocket in your life. And that does not have to be. You do not have to continue to relate to people who are emotional abusers. You need, just matter of fact, to get away. You need to realize that they are hurting you, and it'll be deep, and they can be very possessive, controlling, not want you to have your time, very inappropriate, things that you might have to do, that you feel that you have to be better than, so that this person will enjoy you, and you end up sort of abandoning your own sense of self and your own, like, who you are in your own skin. You are good enough. You are so wonderful. You are a contributor to this world. By living in it, you are a contributor. No one is better than you. No one is better than you. They might be talented. They might be a prodigy in music. It does not make them better than you. Okay, so you need to understand that emotional abuse, narcissism, and psychopathic relationships, they tend to really sort of the byproduct or the end result is a void. A void is an emptiness or a deficit. Is to say, I did not get this. And this was my need, and it was dismissed. It was ignored. And so, like my dentist always said with his teeth, he had a poster on the ceiling: ignore your teeth and they will go away. See, a narcissist, they don't have empathy. They don't want to talk about your feelings. They don't want to talk about what's real. They might lie to you, string you along for decades, and then you can maybe get married and then still be on this perpetual like hamster wheel where you feel that you're just burning yourself out. You do not have to succumb to all that. You do not, just because they seemed or appeared as if an authority. Really, there's a higher authority for you that you need to acknowledge and embrace, which might be very scary for people because they have not had perspective on their own goodness. They don't sort of know where they've given up, where they have lowered their standards. Yeah, this is okay. Yeah, that's okay. Let's do this, and then lowered your standards, which ultimately, becomes self-destructive. Self-destructive behaviors, self-destructive thoughts, or just non-productive, meaning I don't feel peace and harmony, like I'm firing on all cylinders. I get it. We get it here at the Peace and Harmony channel. You must understand emotional abuse. When someone is yelling at you, aggression, giving you scowling looks, these are things that will sit in the body. They will cause sort of a packing down of your energy, which can serve as a wall, or kind of, if you think of it like, it keeps you stuck, meaning it can't flow, it can't move. I'm stuck, I'm blocked, I just, so because of this controlling, you have not had your own sort of hands in your own sort of strength building, because it's been corrupted, by a relationship. So you can say, wow, I understand and accept the corrosive element of this relationship, even though I didn't want to see it, even though I want to fake it through. This is the holidays, and then you continue to hear abrasive comments, yelling, projection, scowling looks, oftentimes, invading your boundaries, meaning you don't have the right to your own sense of self. So they will deprive you of this. So you must realize that you cannot go through life with a deprived sense of self. You will feel deprived. You will feel depressed. You will feel a void. You'll feel that you have to always get other substances to keep you going. And it can be very difficult to work through things to completion, and so, the hypercritical, judgmental element, you have to realize and sort of dismiss their judgment, saying, I'm going to dismiss that judgment. And I myself, when it comes to liberating yourself so that you don't feel isolated, in other words, feeling that you don't have family or whatever tradition. Things are changing, guys. We are in a rapidly changing society, the pandemic and everything, and the corruptive elements you no longer need to cater to. So if certain things are wearing you out, breaking you down, too much energy to maintain, you must acknowledge and validate it, even if this is a relationship that's a family member by blood. What if this is your parent? Oh my God, how do people survive? It can be a real hindrance, and they, so your sense of self is sort of destroyed. In other words, disempowered, and then people feel they're giving their selves away. Without having, goodness reflected back. So I know I have felt like that a lot in the channel, where I feel like I'm giving so much and what am I getting back? If you have to realize that there are certain boundaries you need to respect and embrace within yourself, and realize that the element within that, meaning I'm not going to take this. See, but if a narcissist won't allow you to speak up, I'm not going to take this anymore. You don't even need to have that conversation, because any conversation with them leads to a rat's nest. It'll lead to a spool of thread that you cannot get the knot out of. They are that way. It's engineered chaos. And so it's a chaotic, and so you cannot allow that to break you down. If it has wherever you're at in, did it break me down? Did it cause me a loss of sleep? It caused me to break down. That is an element, that is a byproduct, which creates basically this isolation feeling. I'm not good enough. I'm afraid to talk to people. Post-traumatic stress syndrome. Feeling that your feelings are always seething below the surface, and this is a very unhealthy bottling up. So, you need to be able to realize that boundaries are going to be, your own energy. And when it comes to healing, it can be very helpful to eliminate judgment. Realize that judgment is nothing more than a product of the mind. It's a product of the mind, which oftentimes can have nothing to do with reality. So people might have certain biases against others, which is a wall. And they do not build bridges. They build walls. So if there's people with differences, like you need to bring, people who have differences, sometimes they're irreconcilable, meaning this cannot be reconciled. It's just not going to. So that might be something very hurtful. But if you get into acceptance and realize that you can reclaim your own energy and not be claiming someone else's judgment. So when you get into that, try really just stopping and realizing that it's all a figment of the mind. So the judgment, this didn't go well, I'm not good, it's just a product of the mind. It has nothing to do with anything really in actuality of being good or bad or better. But the narcissist and all that is driven that way, they're counting on really you buying into that fact that you're not good enough and that they know what's better for you. And like, if you give them whatever it is that they need, your, foot rub, head scratch, are you receiving the same? What are you receiving? Are you not? So that's the isolation, because then you don't have there's a judgment going on within the reticular activating system, which tells me relationships are going to hurt. Relationships are going to hurt. This is going to be nasty. This is not. And so it's like you're constantly like looking at that. So, and so to kind of take a step back, sometimes you need to be able to understand the concept of holding space, which means just holding your space without judgment. So that's within and without. Thoughts can be judged. This is a good thought. This is a bad thought. This keeps going round and round. That is nothing more than the product of a figment of the mind that is created to say this is good, this is bad. And oftentimes it has nothing to do with reality. It's just a factor of the mind. So the mind, that can cause a lot of excessive thoughts. It can cause misdirection. It can cause people to sort of hibernate, isolate, or go into regressive, meaning unbecoming behaviors, and you might need to really get into that comfort zone. But when it comes to the holidays, you might not want to be celebrating ever with people who are emotionally abusive. It basically seems that they hate, narcissists have the privilege of being so judgmental of people, and often it's just a figment of the mind. So if you can quiet the mind from grabbing onto the judgment, you can just be, okay, without judgment. This is fast, this is traction, this is white, this is clean, this is this is, the best for me. All these judgments, naming things. When I studied in, I guess we're going long today. When I studied in college, one of the books that we read was the Tao Te Ching, and it's a book by Lao Tzu, I think, and who was a farmer, I think, many centuries ago. I don't have all the specifics here, but the Tao is that which cannot be named. In other words, the energy that you're seeking is really what is not named. If this makes any sense, in other words, stop naming things. I don't know, was it David Byrne again? We're going back. Hey, guess who grew up in the 80s? Okay, stop making sense. In other words, stop trying to figure them out, figure this, and stop the judgment and be liberated and just, and it'll really liberate you. We can talk a lot more in depth, but you have to realize that judgment piece, if you can just stop naming things. This is blue, this is red. If you can just stop that for a moment and stop, because people get on such a go. This is December 2021. Everything is go. I mean, everything. And, I see a lot of people suffering at the hands of that type of society, where then you got people up here are doing this, and you got this big gap down here, and they don't appreciate. They don't have narcissists and psychopaths and people who are emotionally abusive, they don't really know how to have appreciation of others, even those that are the most quote unquote lowly. They don't have an appreciation. So like, I have an appreciation for art. I have this appreciation for, but if you've been emotionally abused, it's because you're like, I really appreciate not being abused, and like, I need this, like, and then it just gets a mess. So, that sort of possessiveness and controlling it's just sort of, even though they'll say, well, I'm not controlling, I'm not manipulative, you're the one it'll be a projection. Wouldn't you like to, oh, you want someone to just control you and be this and that, and I'm not that type of person, yet they're not committed to you. So they will misname things. In other words, because they lack really appreciation and empathy, they're not able to see your goodness and let you live in your goodness. So if you do not have that mirrored back to you, your strengths, those people have a big problem. People who are ultra competitive, oh boy, they know who to snuff out. They know who to go after. You're at a new job, you're at a new thing, and you got someone who is, they will know who to take down and, take names, and they will not appreciate you for who you are, your strength, what you've been through. And so you don't really feel acknowledged and validated. And then you can start to get really bottled up. And then this explosiveness or this wondering, like, why am I on this treadmill? It is because of that pure living sort of energy. And here I'm really into the kinesthetics. Unfortunately, when you go to a lot of psychologists, I don't think that they really get a lot of what people are going through. And people will like pay all sorts of money and go to psychologists and like not really get what they need, or, they're still suffering, their relationships, their certain experiences, because they count on you not, taking a stand, not taking that one little millimeter step in a different direction. And so that judgment sort of keeps them in your mind. In other words, I have to please this in order to alleviate this tension. It creates a tension, which is a neuromuscular. So you must understand, your muscles have nerve sensations running all through them. I mean, have you ever touched someone's hair and you go, oh my God, I love this person? Or you touch their silky shirt and you're like, oh my God, isn't that lovely? Or they're, whatever, like, and by the way, people always ask me about certain products, and I'll bring it up later. There's a great Aveda product called, it's like their dry shampoo, and it's, I've the blonde, I'm no longer doing the blonde, so I hope you guys can handle the new look here. But anyway, so that product, anyway, it gives like this sort of very sort of essential oil, which is just sort of calming. And when you alleviate judgment, you need to really close your eyes and sit there you need to get an experience, just like lifting weights. You're going, you know what? I'm flooding my body with good energy, almost like a weight. It's a curl. So think of like, it's like not a muscle curl, it's a invisible curl. I'm feeling myself. I'm feeling myself. With lack of judgment, I'm feeling myself. I'm feeling that void with lack of judgment. That void that was instilled like a hole that it's like an abyss. Realize that is like a hole in the wall. That is like someone who has broken through a fence because they want to get to someone else's property. Someone, who breaks into your home. That's a violation of your boundaries. How horrible would it be if you were driving and someone grabbed your car while you were driving? You did not have the locks on or something, or, your car, you don't have a security system in place. That is what isolation is. Because you don't have an alarm on the house, you don't have the locks on the car door, you don't have a sense of self that you can interact with on a two-way basis, meaning I can open my boundary and have it inside and not be worried that I'm going to fall down, sunken feelings, or, other even worse things, never having friends, never going and being outgoing. So you have to realize that judgment needs to be erased and really work on it. So this is something that I have experienced and studied and my degree, and I was one class shy of my master's. Well, my master's, yes. So, but I've done a lot of really extensive work beyond it's a daily thing. So it's like something that's really important to me, to be able to help people who have suffered this, because not a lot of people really understand and get it, and if you don't have anybody to sort of get down in the bunker and hunker down and being like, sit on the floor with you and like, just being, without judgment. And I'm just drinking some apple juice to help my stomach here. And here we go. Apothecary tea. Oh my God. I've had to do so much work these past year and 11 months with dealing with pain. So I hope we get to do this a lot more consistently. But anyway, so the dismissing of your feelings, meaning they're judged. So you're bad. Yeah, so that will create a void. Like it'll create it's like an intramuscular, guttural experience. And your vagus nerve, which is the longest nerve, runs, from your, down through here into your abdomen. So like if someone has a gut feeling or inspiration, that's your vagus nerve being like, we're on track, my vagus nerve, that's your connection, but that gets sort of snipped, crushed, compressed, scratched up, destroyed. Just like you can have a muscle tear and have a, or a broken bone, and it might heal, your body can heal itself. People say, oh God, peace and harmony, I'm sure not healed. But you have to be around healing people. And be okay to say, what, that's not my scene. Even though you might love these people or be attached or really have an appreciation. If the appreciation is not reciprocal, if they don't have a conscience, if you, you need to give yourself permission, which oftentimes people have not done. So it's literally, an abdominal, an intra-body, an intramuscular, a kinesthetic learning and healing that needs to take place. So the body needs to get going. And you need to really look at the role of judgment in your life and how it impacts feelings and how it causes you to feel impaired, because boundaries are impaired in a psychopathic and narcissistic relationship. Psychopathic, wow, we're talking at a whole nother level here, folks. But it's the problem. You must really understand, and we need to get some working knowledge of this. Like my boundaries, just like you're saying, I'm brushing my teeth. Like, are my boundaries intact? Are my boundaries good? Is my, my body okay? Where am I clenching things? And where am I, because this all will create, and foster your feelings, which will oftentimes lead to a lack of motivation, an inability to wave high, and just, like for example, and I don't know if you can relate to this, but for example, I was getting my oil changed. It's like the oil changes right now, it's $80 for an oil change. I'm like, oh my God. But I was there, and then they have a Jiffy Lube in my area. I went to the Jiffy Lube, and if you go and search like Jiffy Lube coupons, it's a $10 coupon. So it was really awesome. And, there was another lady sitting in there. And if you just reach out and just say, hey, did you know that you can get this coupon at $10 at Jiffy Lube here? And then you just sort of made a connection, and they appreciate you, and you feel good. So it's like little things that you have to get up a little bit of courage and bravery to reach out. If it doesn't go out, your body doesn't go out, my hair doesn't fluff out, my voice doesn't go out, whatever it is, you've got body shaming issues. I can't talk to people. I'm this, I can't, yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. So what I want you to do, and it's good to be back. I hope we do more videos, but what I want you to do is make your boundary sort of an attention, like part of your reticular activating system. So like right now, if I say like Cadillac, you'll see all sorts of Cadillacs. Like there's a reticular activating system which drives sort of what you focus on. So if you focus on, how are my boundaries today? With lack of judgment, without constant evaluation, without constant being button pushed, without people, not appreciating your boundaries, not seeing them, not acknowledging and validating them. This is so hurtful. It creates such a pain. It creates such an emotional pain, and it can be so chronic that it doesn't go away, And you need to reclaim this element and sort of make a composite of it within and know, what are my boundaries? Like, what does it feel like when I go, no, I'm not going to take that. Like, and have this in a soothing voice, not like, no. I mean, if you want to scream at the top of your voice, but I'm talking about intrapersonal. We're talking about within yourself. So you've got interpersonal relationships within yourself that oftentimes are destroyed. They are damaged. They are chopped up, put in the meat grinder. You feel like chopped liver. You might drink to the point where you actualize that. You are dumb. You might get to the point where you never get motivated and read a thing, and you never, because you're fulfilling their prophecy. Why fulfill a negative prophecy? It is all slander. Okay. You have to realize that and go, wow, all that does not have to bear on me. I have an authority within. It's within everybody, guys. So, but the narcissist will act like it doesn't exist. So just because the narcissist is a personality disorder, okay, generally an insatiable need for power and control, all these other things, but namely they lack empathy. So they don't have an ability for those mirror neurons to adequately reflect back in a healthy manner, you, this, me, they want to annihilate that and sort of just get you for whatever they want. And then, just sort of discard. People feel like garbage. That's not a very pleasant feeling. And I'm here to tell you today, do not live your life feeling that way. I don't care if you're car camping. I don't care if you live in an RV. You do not need to succumb, which means succumb, give in, fall into the trap. They are expert trap setters. So When you feel disconnected, it's because they're counting on you playing their game. Guess what? They're too gamey for my taste. I do not eat bear. I'm a vegetarian. I do like fish. But, that type of relationship is a little too gamey for me. And you have to say, you know what, just because I don't want to do that, it doesn't make me a bad person. And I'm not going to be socially perceived by these people that because I don't do this and that I'm no good. I'm not a team player. All their evaluation. Let all of it go. All of it. Experience that. If you can even do it for 20 seconds. You need, that one curl. When you speak softly to yourself, I don't need, abuse. My boundaries really are here within me. My boundaries are here to protect me. And I have emotions that are spilling over those, sometimes too emotional that I feel that I might spill them over to other people. Well, guess what? If you are recognizing this, people will love to hear how you're doing. People who you don't know. See, this is the whole majesty of it. This is the whole miracle of life. And I want you to experience the miracle. You need to get, into it, and this has to be a number one priority. Feeling isolated, that can rob you of years of enjoyment of your life and never feeling whole or that you have boundaries that are there to protect you. So, for example, if you go out in sub-degree weather, 20 below without a jacket, you're not going to be protected. You're going to get stung, you're going to get hypothermia, and then you're going to not be able to, carry on. So you have to realize that part of emotional abuse, it's like it puts you into an environment where you don't have that down warmth protection. You don't have that sort of I'm cozy, I'm comfortable, and I can just go into the elements and I'm just floating. If you ever go downtown Chicago or by Lake Michigan, you get some wicked winds that come over, especially when you get all the choppy waves and everything. If you aren't dressed appropriately, you will not enjoy the setting. You will not enjoy your life. You will not feel, so it's kind of like you need to have an emotional, if you can, and I would love for you guys to comment on this. We're going to wrap it up in a little bit, but your boundaries should be just like brushing your teeth. How are my boundaries? Am I speaking softly? Am I going to be, am I speaking gently? How are my boundaries? Are they intact? Who's gotten through there? Where are they? God, look at that big open spot. In fact, there's a whole 2x4 plank of wood. Oh my God, there's a whole 8 feet of stretch. Oh my God, and you might realize where sort of the open, where that little hole is, because they will create a hole to get in and play. This is really elaborate stuff, guys. So you have to realize it's time to sort of get a little bit of patching up, do a little bit of internal rehab, saying, you know what, I'm going to brighten up what it feels like in here. It's, is it bright white? Can bright white fill your entire abdomen where you feel the void? Can white light just, white light is a very powerful image because it sends healing, loving energy that is non-judgmental into the pain, allowing it, having that system turn on. It's kind of like a crank that might have been so rusty, you might have found it in the fields and it might turn on, poof, all the smoke goes. You need, it's still working, but it has not been oiled. It has not been given some TLC. That might be you who did not get the TLC from someone important and they are suffering because of it. You can raise your hand. That is reality. It's time to get real. It's time to really get some cushion and know what your boundaries are made of. Are they made of down? Are they made of fleece? Are they made of metal? Oftentimes, comforting boundary images need to be set up that are attractive to you, because the narcissist will create a barrier, like where you cannot connect. So it's an emotional barrier that is like a scar tissue that kind of like can't really move. So you have to really go, okay, maybe there's a scar tissue, from this hurtful things that have been done that you've seen that are then housed. So, or memories that you don't have that you need, like like in the holidays, people are, I don't have the time, or my family this, or I'm divorced and it's not going to be That's all judgment. Stop the judgment. Take the record off. Anybody have a record, with a needle? Take the record out and throw it away. Don't play that song no more. You're this, you're that, not enough. Has nothing to do with reality. It has everything to do with the insecurity of an emotional abuser who cannot give others what they need because they lack empathy. They might be real showy showmen, have all sorts of accolades or friends or relationships that are destructive and apparently all over the place, seem to be exciting. They're actually very immature, actually very unattractive. And it can be very important for you to identify, an abuser, that they are unattractive. And that I'm no longer going to kind of be attracted or be attractive to that. Because if you do not confront that barrier, you will attract the reticular activating system. It's a body language. It's a je ne sais quoi. It's the miracle of life that, people who are abusers, they'll go, this one's a pushover. And I saw this one coming. I mean, Lord have mercy. So, they count on you living from a deficit, living from a negative self-bias, what is known in like eating disorders, anorexia, and bulimia, is a confirmed sense of negative. I have to research it once again, but it's like a negative sense of self that they are living by. You don't need to do that. You don't need, no, especially, you don't need, to be ignored or have a piece of you sort of taken away, bitten off, chewed, spit out, and told you're not sweet enough, you're not smart enough, you're to this. It has nothing to do with you. Oftentimes there's an inability for a narcissist to be committed. They have a committophobic, they're very committophobic, meaning they're afraid that they can't commit because they can't. So they'll string people along, and that is that whole delayed gratification. Like, well, maybe someday if I do this, or that's all conditional basis. This is all based on judgment. So you need to realize that the relationship with a narcissist is a conditional based relationship. No. Sorry, that is not okay. No, you need unconditional positive self-regard. Unconditional, which means not based on anything. My fingernails are long, whatever. People, to me, it's just like, oh, you don't have the right fingernails, you're not pretty. You don't have the right car, you're not my friend. This is judgment. So that is always like David Byrne, water under rock, So you have to realize and tap down to your own water table where you can re-embrace and like begin to be outgoing, where it is safe. Do not, but I'm talking about like little bits where you can go out and just do this as a healing. I call this the recovery dates. So if you can take 2 hours out of your day and say, you know what, I'm going to go on a recovery date. This is by yourself, not with any people in tow. And you go and you feel with a lack of judgment. You are your healed self. You're telling yourself, you're doing like an ego stroke, like to yourself, like, basically, where if you have this sort of feeling of I am not hurt. I am not injured. I'm just going to go and observe, meaning I'm not trying to get involved in some sort of conditioned transaction, something like that, where you're more uplifted and you are loving yourself into being, and allow yourself to be with others who will love you into being as well, because that is where the sparks will fly. That's where you'll get the goosebumps, like you'll feel a little bit happiness. And if you can do that with your reticular activating system, which means I'm looking at things in a different way. I'm allowing myself to not be endeared or beholden to an abuser, because it becomes a trauma bond. It is not love. It is very difficult to say that. It is very, very difficult to accept that. It is very difficult to say, why me? How come the lottery worked out like this for me? But see, all that is going to be judgment, which you need to process. So the recovery dates are a way for you to sort of get into a mode where you learn to hold your head up high, be enough, not have to, and then sort of be not like the same type of person. But what I mean is like that part of yourself that wants to feel strong, or you want to feel creative or attractive, like whatever you feel it is you're missing, that void. What are you missing? A hug. I mean, go out and hug a tree, for goodness sake. Go out and go to a pet store and go and see the little puppies, and go and see the little bunnies for your recovery date, and hold them and kiss them and let them snuggle. I mean, you might need to get a pet. You might need to get a bunny. You might need to get a dog, kitten, probably not a snake, but you might need to get something that you like that is healing. You need to bring it in. Before we wrap it up, so for example, if you're always, my perfect life would be, it's always like I would really prefer to do this or that, or have this, or have a relationship like this, or more sex life or less sex life, or better food or more travel, whatever it is, it's all running through, whatever. You need to kind of let that go sometimes and not cater to it, because that will cause the trap. And then you're more living in the heart space. So, it's not an emoji, guys. This is not about an emoji. What are you missing? Are you missing emojis? Why are you being trained to live for emojis? Why are you feeling good or bad if you got a thumbs up, a thumbs down, whatever? That is not your reward. You have to look at the reticular activating system and what it's focusing on, and what is like being, like you're punishing yourself, or you're not, you're putting too much pressure, and this will cause, you to be grumpy, aggressive, throw things, break things. Why did that happen? Crap. You can avoid that. You can avoid that and protect yourself. The recovery date, especially now around the holidays, if you go on your own, and you just, do something different for whatever it is that you're missing. I'm missing the majestic in life. Then go to a new, some church that's magnificent, and just observe, not judge, just take it in. What are you missing? I'm missing kisses. Well then, you might need to go and do something where you're comforting yourself. You're putting on a turtleneck, you're sort of warming yourself up, and you're then giving experiences where you can have intimacy. Intimacy, will be lacking. Intimacy meaning into me see, meaning into me see. A narcissist does not have intimacy. They might have apparent things, but it is not intimacy. People, what is missing in my relationship? Into me see. They don't see into me. They don't have empathy. They don't get it. So that's why you have to go and I love our viewers. They're like, you have to go to nature. Let heaven and nature sing. Listen to the words for the music and listen to things differently, okay? In an immaterial basis. It's immaterial. My joy is immaterial. It's not based on certain things. Yeah, you're going to have a roller coaster, but do you really want to, ride the Six Flags roller coaster for the rest of your life? Oh, woo, fun. Whoa. I mean, how much of that do you need? How much, or when is it time to say, it's okay. I don't have to be the best, whatever, all the pressure. So, the pressures, and usually it's a violation of boundaries. So, and it's also being trained or entrained to accept a reward that is not a reward. So the whole important thing, is a heart emoji really as good as a hug or the real thing? Are you being trained to, feel good about yourself if you have emoji on something? So be very, very careful of what is happening now and what you're feeling rewarded by or punished by or limited by. So if, you really need to just also get out in nature and really just, or wherever it is, and just observe and allow it to come. Say, I'm just allowing. And it's a very effortless thing. But people who have been abused, they have to put so much effort into everything. It's an effort. It's a struggle. The insecurity, the not being acknowledged and validated. Some people say I feel invisible. It's because of lack of, intimacy, and the problem is these are indelible patterns of the relationship, of the abuser. Abusers do not change. They have an indelible pattern. Unless someone is aware enough to say, I don't want to be abusive. I don't want to live my life this way. I don't want to have road rage. Like, I'm sick of, if someone can say that or say, I'm sick of feeling down, I'm just not going to. Okay, I'm not, and I need to just get my body moving and I need to go for a walk and I need to go out and I just need to take it in, and I just need to suspend judgment. Just stop judging. Because that's all the after effect of the manipulation that has its grip on you. And get out of they don't have a grip on you. I don't know. Do you see a grip of anyone else on my arm? I think I got my arm here. Thank God I got my arm there. Okay. So what I'm trying to explain is that within you, you need to realize what I call as your internal real estate. They will vandalize, try to take your property, try to take you down. I'm going to take you down. Try to take your own value of yourself down, meaning your own appreciation of life. So you and life are one. You and life are one. But a narcissist, nope, because you are not one with them. They will always keep separate. And you need to have, but separate in a punishing way, which means they always try to be they're trying to be the authority. No. That is, you did not give them that title. No. You have a strength within that needs to acknowledge and validate and live within, even if it's just being. You don't have to do anything special to be special. You already are. You've already got your feet planted on the ground. If you ever look up at the sky and see the stars, like what gets, allow yourself to do it. Gardening, even in the fall, I don't have, people say, oh, I don't have an outlet. Maybe, if you live like me, where I've got the 4 seasons, you know what? I've been so out there. I've been doing so much garden therapy, growing all sorts of herbs, plants. Oh my God, we're getting on an hour, but I will, flowers, tree, just all sorts of stuff that's been very healing, but it doesn't mean that you have to stop. Like, if seasons change or whatever, you need to sort of get a feel of those boundaries. And what do they feel like for you? Like, what feels most protective? Is it, and on your recovery dates, exercise those boundaries. Exercise those boundaries a little bit. Like when you, see something that makes you feel bad. Nope, that's just begin to put a word to it. No, that's just a violation of my boundaries. That's triggering my void. That's triggering the pain. That was their energy that I still am holding on to, and that's okay. I'm going to give it back to them. And it's a process. I'm releasing what is not mine. So, sorry, even though you might have wanted someone to be yours, you might have to release them and then hold them, and cherish certain things, but that have made you stronger. So, in other words, have a sense of forgiveness. There's so many elements to it. We can, just really, really comb through all this, because it's very difficult after someone has been very possessive and controlling. It's very difficult to get possession and control of yourself because they've sort of taken that. That's how they take advantage of people, unfortunately. And, you might then need to learn what it is to stand up for yourself, and that you can be loved into a state of being. Loved into a state of being. And I wish you a miracle of that today, that you are able to experience just the miracle of being. It's not advertised. It can't be bought. No one else can give it to you. You will absorb it yourself like a sponge if you just allow. I'm going to allow, and then, begin even on your recovery date to be able to reach out to somebody. A little wave, a little, hey, how are you? A little conversation that you start. People are very terrified of starting conversations after they've been emotionally abused, because they feel, oh, I don't have my boundaries. And then they get violated again. Practice your boundaries. Sing hello, and then, having a little bit of exchange, and then being okay with your boundaries. Having a little bit of exchange. Be outgoing. Do something tactile. Put on something different that feels different on your legs, that feels different, more supportive on your feet. Put on some good boots. Put on something that has a texture. Wear something that gets your own attention, that is not all about everything else and not about the judgment, just to love into being. And when you do that, you'll realize, I am okay. I'm actually good enough. And you don't have to believe the lies. You don't have to live the lies. M. Scott Peck, People of the Lie. There's books you can read. Liberate yourself. That is what I wish today, and more videos soon. Thank you for your patience and being with me through all of my pain. And in my absence, I've been thinking about you, and I hope to continue feeling good and posting more videos. And please bring up the topics. I hope to do this a lot more regularly. So thumbs up, you guys. Love you. Take care. You got this. Love, be loved into being. Nothing more, nothing more. Kisses.